Welcome to this webinar on artificial intelligence or AI. AI has recently really risen to prominence. It now takes up a position in modern day society that is really interesting. To discuss its rise to prominence, I am joined by Henk Westhuis, Chief Architect at IFS Ultimo, and Chris van der Belt, Head of Product Management also at IFS Ultimo. And we're not only going to discuss the sort of exploratory journey that Ultimo has been on, to figure out how to best integrate AI and AI functionalities into its product solution, but more specifically, the value that this is going to bring to you, the customer, and to our users that use the Ultimo platform in their day-to-day lives. This is a discussion that I am sure you want to be a part of. And in order to do this, I implore you to please put your questions into the chat, and we will try our best to answer as many of your questions as possible. Any questions that are left unanswered, we will follow up on after the webinar concludes. When it comes to AI, my personal perspective is that AI is very much a spectrum of sorts. Where on the one hand, you have the uninhibited enthusiast, who is always experimenting and exploring, trying to see what is possible with the use and support of artificial intelligence. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have the pragmatic realist, who understands what is possible, but questions what the implications are and wants to understand sort of the ethical dilemmas and consequences of full-on integration of artificial intelligence into our day-to-day lives. Very interesting discussion. Let's dive right into it.
Thank you for your introduction. Well, AI is not new. It has been around for a long time. I think the best examples are the early AI-powered chat programs, and maybe some industrial applications. But late 2022, things changed for the good, actually. ChatGPT was made available to us. And it's not only the technology that was made available, but it also made AI very user-friendly. And it made it so that the masses were able to use AI. It was natural language. And those large language models became usable, and everybody started using it. Yeah, a large language model is very good at writing texts and providing answers. And it made it that if you were chatting with ChatGPT, it was almost like you were, chatting with a real person.
Yeah, not only consumers are working with AI nowadays, but also organizations are looking, and the market is asking for AI. We also see that happening. If we look at some numbers from market analysts, we see that in the EAM area, 74% of the companies is exploring AI, implementing AI, or already working with it. And also the Boston Consultancy Group indicates that it's a number one spend increase in AI expected for the next 12 months. And we also got the question quite often, what is Ultimo doing with AI? And we also saw that reflected in the number of subscriptions for today's webinars. It was also an all-time high. So I think that indicates the hype around AI.
Yeah, AI became a hype, and AI itself became a buzzword very quickly, just like blockchain a few years ago. But not everything that is labeled AI now is really AI. A lot of those things are just smart. But now we see the label AI on many, many products like AI toothbrushes, AI shower heads. You see it everywhere. And although we are very exciting in it, but the hype was maybe a little bit over the top.
Yeah, it was, and especially for us, as you know, we are a Dutch a company from the Netherlands. So I also asked ChatGPT, could you describe the Dutch way of thinking in 2 sentences? And I got 2 very long sentences. It is, the Dutch way of thinking and communicating is characterized by directness and honesty, often valuing clarity over diplomacy. And they tend to be pragmatic and solution-oriented, focusing on practical outcomes rather than theoretical ideals. And that is exactly how we perceive AI. We are really focusing on how can we bring value, day-to-day value, AI use cases, so solutions for problems in our software. So that's also how we started by
Yeah, and I really agree with our way of looking at things, especially AI. I think the hype made it that everything was called AI. Luckily, we are a little bit, it's a little bit on its return, and we are now searching for real use cases. But how did we start? Well, I remember that I think it was you or maybe somebody else from product management that started by just asking ChatGPT how to, well, let's generate a work instruction or how can I solve this case or this issue.
Yeah.
And the results were pretty decent, actually. So, well, you shared that with us, and we started to do a few experiments. And one of the first ones is, well, a chatbot where we can really interact with data inside Ultimo with natural language. And we have, I think, a video from it. So let's play it. This was a very early experiment, and you can see that, yeah, we can have interaction with the data in Ultimo, the system in Ultimo. It was a command line example, of course. We like to experiment a little bit outside Ultimo, to make things a lot faster, and I was really excited about this. And of course, I shared this with you.
Yeah, I was excited as well, although there was still some room for improvement in the user experience and the look and feel, so...
I kind of disagree. I really like having the command line interface.
Yeah, of course. So I, to really believe that it was about Ultimo data, I wanted to have it in a sidebar at Ultimo.
As a real chatbot.
As a chatbot, so...
Yeah, so that's what we did, especially for Chris. I think we integrated this chatbot inside Ultimo. We can see it in the example. It will, well, you can ask questions. It's actually the same chatbot as before. The only difference is that it's now in the sidebar.
And now I believe that it's actually Ultimo.
Yeah, and if you look very closely, you can see that it's also opening a screen with a job, and you can also change statuses. And it pops up in a dialog with questions. So it can already interact with the data, but also with the user interface. Really exciting from a technical point of view, but it also had a few flaws. One of the flaws is that you really have to know what you can ask to this chatbot. So that brings us to the third example already. The chatbot, it's a lot of typing. It's very difficult to know what you can ask for the chatbot. So what we try to do is create another proof of concept, another experiment, where we avoid typing a little bit. I think this is the example where you can see that instead of having to give an answer to every question from ChatGPT in this case, you will be providing with a few buttons with, well, things that you will probably want to answer. Very failure types, for example, or an urgency, or all things.
And I think that works better because that's also what we see in the adoption of, for instance, smart speakers. There is no graphical user interface, so people don't know which features it has. So most people use it for just ask what's the weather for today, can you play music and turn on the lights. But it can do way more. But you have to know what you can ask. So I think this is already a better prototype than the first version of the chatbot. Yep.
Yeah. I really can relate to that because my children are still saying, "Tell me a joke" to my Google speakers. And, "Hey Google, tell me a joke." Yeah.
And would such a thing be possible in Ultimo? I mean, we can ask our smart speakers, but can Ultimo function with speech as well?
Well, we did some experiments with it, with voice and speech. We have a video for it, so we can show it now what we tried in Ultimo.
The pump is leaking.
Could you please specify which pump?
It's the Kawasaki.
Thank you. I see. It sounds like there might be an issue with a leak. Let me get some options for possible problems for this pump. Please wait a moment.
It is making noise and it's overheating.
Got it. All right. We'll report it as a pipe connection leak. Has this issue just happened? Or did it start earlier, like yesterday or last week?
It just happened.
Thank you. How urgent is this issue for normal operation?
It's critical.
Would you say it... Understood. I'll mark this issue as critical. Your report is now complete. Thank you for providing the information.
No, thank you.
Is there any... You're welcome. If you need any more assistance, feel free to ask. Have a great day.
Well, what this shows is that we are able to use this technology. So those large language models, we can integrate them with our product. We can do all kinds of things like, we have seen voice, a chatbot. We can do array actions or tasks inside our product. So we are able to use the technology, but now the question arises, what do we really want to solve? Which use case do we want to do?
Yeah, so in parallel, next to these experiments, we also did a brainstorm with a group of customers. I think that was something like a month after the introduction of ChatGPT, just to find out where do we see most value, how should we approach AI? And I think we draw 3 conclusions. First of all, in which areas do we see most value for AI? It to improve the efficiency, the productivity of the employees, to reduce downtime. That's an important area, and to make people more productive. Secondly, there is the maintenance teams are naturally a little bit conservative. They don't have the knowledge about AI necessarily. So that might inhibit the adoption of AI. And the third thing is that there might be skepticism. AI is not flawless. I think we saw many examples where AI gave the wrong answers, and you certainly don't want that in a maintenance environment. So I think that the bottom line is the user should remain in the loop. They should be in control of the final decisions. AI can draw the conclusion, for instance, that you can decrease the frequency of a maintenance model, but you don't want to apply that autonomously. The user should remain in the loop. And also, based on the failure report, AI could suggest replacing a motor, for instance, but the audience was very clear about that. This is not what we want. So stay with suggestions, recommendations, and the user should accept it or withdraw it.
I think I agree, and I think it's very important to look at the ethical aspects of AI. And also recently, in the same subject, Europe came with the European AI Act. It's a set of rules where, which dictates how we should handle AI. And something similar is coming from UNESCO recommendations on AI. It's also giving suggestions how you should use AI and handle the risk. Let's look at the risk pyramid that we created. From the European AI Act, we created a pyramid which describes the risk that the risk of the different UI use cases.
I think we can have it on the screen.
Yeah, that's the AI slide on the screen.
Pyramid. Yeah, there it is.
At the bottom, you can see the minimal risk category. It is AI, which is purely giving suggestions that need to be taken over actively from the user. So that the user is not only in control, the user needs to actively take over the suggestions. Think about AI suggestions, maybe writing assistant, spelling checker, such things. The second category, second layer in the pyramid is limited risk, where the user is still in control. The AI usage is very transparent. Transparency is very important here. But the AI is doing tasks for the user. The user stays in control. The user needs to check what the AI is doing, but the AI is actively doing tasks, taking over tasks from the user. If you move up in the pyramid, you go to the high risk use cases where, it's things like automated decision making. It's also doing autonomous tasks where the user is no longer really in control. The user is no longer controlling everything the AI does. So it's the risk is high. And we're going to unacceptable risk when, the AI is working autonomously, but when the decision making from the AI has a high impact on the user. Think about border control, profiling of users, those things. So this is how we look at it, and Ultimo focuses its use cases on minimal and limited risk at this point, because we think it's important for the adoption to be on the safe side. And if you look on how this affects our functionality, I think we can look at the image captions. It's the example where we generate image captions from documents that you can upload. You can see that the user can upload an image, and if you press OK, it will ask if you want to generate a caption for that image using AI. If you press yes, then the AI will be asked to generate a caption, and the user need to confirm if that caption is actually correct or not. Maybe not the optimal flow, but it's how we adjusted the flow to be aligned with the European AI Act.
Yeah, exactly. So in the first version, there was no user interaction. It just happened on the background, and now it's adopted to this set of rules. And I think we need to find a balance in between this. And we also would like to have feedback from our customers to find out in which use cases do we really value this transparency and the fact that the user is in control, and in which cases can we just do it in the background and maybe label it as this is an AI-generated description. So.
Yeah, and I think transparency and compliancy, those are all wonderful things. I do have to ask, though, for working with business critical data, right? I've just seen a functionality where we're literally uploading pictures of our devices into the Ultimo environment. There's a lot of data stored in those environments. What is happening with that data? I mean, we all know that there's different vendors out there. We've recently learned that DeepSeek does things super fast, Chinese company. What are some of the considerations when it comes to data security, data compliancy, when Ultimo works with vendors?
I think the first very important piece of information is that we do not send everything to the large language model. We don't train our own model. We are using general knowledge of the large language model. So that means that we only need to send data that's actually necessary to perform that specific task. I think a second very important one is that we choose our vendors very carefully. Mm-hmm. We do a vendor assessment, and at this point we have chosen OpenAI as our vendor. That might change in the future. And we believe that OpenAI, is a very reliable trust center. What I also believe that in the future there will be more regional initiatives about regarding AI and the creation of large language models. One example is the European AI Champions Initiative, where Europe is developing its own large language model, not only to be competitive to the existing vendors, but also to ensure that data is not leaving the area. So I hope that's an answer for your question. Very much so. Thank you.
I think it's time to move over to use cases and where do we actually see the value of AI. I think this graph tells it all. 80% of time spent on failures is spent on setting a diagnosis, figuring out what actually happened. And if we take one step back, reducing downtime is one of the biggest challenges. That's why we are here for. And you can do that in two ways. First of all, you can make sure that there is less downtime. You prevent downtime from happening. And I think most of the traditional approaches on AI are focusing on that predictive maintenance, prescriptive maintenance, where we leverage sensor data to make sure that we already know that an equipment is about to fail before it actually happens. And the other thing is make sure that we spend less time on failures and that we have shorter downtime, so improve the mean time to repair. So, and as you can see, 80% of that time is spent on figuring out what happened. One of the things we tried is to leverage the failure history in order to make sure that downtime can be fixed sooner. Because when a failure occurs, it's very likely that it's not the first time. Maybe a similar asset or a similar problem has already occurred. So that's what we started our experiments with. And we got some permission from a couple of customers. We could use their databases to try if that's actually possible with AI. But what we found out is when we search through the problem descriptions, there's often very little information in it. If it is something like the pump stops or doesn't work, we missed the details. So that's why we shifted our approach. So we started thinking, how can we use AI to make sure that we capture the symptoms in a better way, that it helps the operator or whoever reports a failure in describing actually what happens. So a first experiment of that, I think we can show that on the screen, is a team started working on this example. This is not the product we finally released, but what you can see here is that it suggests sensory observations that might have come along with the failure. which made the failure report more detailed.
And nice is that this is actually using large language models where it is best at.
Yeah.
Inspiring, analyzing tests, giving suggestions.
Absolutely. And this is then the final version that we've released. So in this case, we use a graphical overview. We select the pump of this washing machine. And if we report a failure, the AI pop-up shows up and it suggests these sensory observations. And I think that this is also where you see the difference between the chatbot approach, where it's very generic. This is really, injected in this specific part of the process where we report a failure, and it helps the user to be more complete and precise.
What I also really like is in the chatbot example, I really needed to enter a correct prompt. Prompt engineering.
Yeah.
And that proved to be very difficult, even for me as somebody that's really excited about this technology and using ChatGPT a lot.
Yeah.
In this example, it's not necessary to type a prompt, to think about what you want to achieve, actually. It will just give you suggestions.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have to be a prompt engineer. The prompt is already designed.
Yeah. Something that I think is also important to reiterate is the fact that this is not just purely time saved, right? A compound benefit of this as well is that it frees up the valuable time of skilled laborers to do what they love most, right? Working with their hands, getting their hands dirty, and they can address some more high value add tasks within the organization. So you're not only getting a faster time to repair, you're also freeing up your very skilled and very valuable maintenance team to address those other pressing issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first benefit, the long-time benefit is of course better quality of data. So we have the symptoms captured in the failure history. But the short-time benefit is for every failure that is reported in this way, there is less time wasted on figuring out what actually happened, calling the one who reported the issue, walking to the machine to observe the situation yourself. I think that's already the short-term benefit of this.
Yeah, and if I look at examples in my actual day job, when a bug is being reported by a customer or a user, it often says, "Well, I got an error message." What I want to know is the actual error message. I want to have the information from the head of the one that's reporting the issue.
And just like our customers, we try to solve that problem, and we've seen that at our customers in many different ways. Of course, you can add additional fields. They will be left empty. You can make them mandatory, and they will select other or fill in a space or a dot. And even in the problem description, we have seen pre-populated questions where you expect people to answer these questions, but also they are often left empty or maybe even removed. And with this approach, you don't have to type anymore. It's just a matter of clicking on the observations. But let's take and then maybe we can also show why we chose for a large language model, because if we look at this slide, I think this explains it. Of course, you can pre-populate master data tables to do suggestions, but this literally works on every type of asset, no matter if it's a conveyor belt, a pump, problem with the cooling engine in the building, infusion pumps in the medical area, vehicle-related failures. So no matter the asset type, the suggestions are spot on. So that's indeed where AI is best at. This is something we cannot properly solve with traditional techniques. And we also saw a nice example of one of the customers that tried it in the past weeks. One of the issues were about an extruder. To be specific, the nozzle on the extruder. And it's not, we have a problem with the nozzle, but they asked for a solution. Can we replace the nozzle? But then the AI widget made sure that the observations were captured. And that was about irregular flow, material buildup. So there was dirt in the nozzle. And then it turned out that the problem was not in the nozzle, but somewhere else in the process that made the nozzle that caused material buildup in the nozzle. So I think that's also a very powerful example that it forces the one who reports an issue to concentrate on the symptoms and then empower the maintenance team to come up with the best possible solution.
What we also noticed that when we looked at examples how it was being used by customers, is that it also works inspiring. Not only they took over some suggestions from the chatbot, but they also enriched it even more because they were inspired by, so it's helpful to give examples or give observations, and they provided even more observations.
Yeah. I think we can turn off this slide and move on to the next steps, because now we have these failure details captured. The next question is always, how can we then solve the problem? Can I also provide a solution for this problem? Of course, we want to have the leverage the failure history for that. And then we need three things: the symptoms, which is now captured, but also the cause and the solution. And the resolution. We see the same over there. So the technician finishes jobs, and what we see in the performed activities is often something like the pump works again, or it's up and running again, or I fixed it. But that gives no information. We want to know how it was fixed so that we know for the next time how we can do it again. So this control will later be implemented in the update progress dialog, also on the mobile devices. By the way, what we just saw is also something that we want to make available on our mobile devices, because we want people to report issues and failures using a mobile device, of course. And if we have that, then we also get the resolution captured in the failure history. And related to the causes, we recently released an add-on, a reliability add-on, where we provide the possibility to capture structured failure data. So which component actually failed? What was the problem with that component? What was the cause and what was the action? 3 additional fields, pull down fields. Maybe we can use AI to pre-populate a suggestion based on what's already typed in the problem description or in the performed activities. So what we are working towards is a better quality of the failure history, and then it's a relatively simple step to also use and display the results of the failure search in case of a new failure. So overall, we work on better data quality. That is the long-term value. Also, this long-term value of better failure data helps in the later stages of the maturity model, where we maybe even want predictive maintenance. Also, those models can be trained by providing the right failure data, because if you want to do prescriptive maintenance, you also want to prescribe the solution that came along with sensor data. Also, therefore, you need better quality failure data. And on the short term, of course, we see a decrease of mean time to repair when there is just better information around this failure process.
Yeah, what we see is that after a lot of experiments, we found out finally what a large language model is actually really good at: inspiring, giving suggestions, making associations, converting an image to a text, for example, summarizing stuff. So that's what you want to use the AI for. And the chatbot also learned a lot. We learned that, AI does not lead always to a better user experience. The chatbot, I'm not saying that it's bad. I think it's a really nice example of having a chatbot, and I think it can really be valuable. But it also learned us that sometimes, we were forced to think about what do you want to ask this chatbot, because we need to learn the chatbot something. And one of the things that we learned is that, we wanted to ask, for example, are there other jobs for this equipment, for this asset? And by doing this, we came with another solution. We actually came with a sidebar. We already saw a very brief spoiler, but let's show it now for real. We came with this sidebar where we want to show information that the user probably wants. We don't need AI for this, because we are experts on this, and we actually know in which stage of the process the user wants to show what information. You can tell me probably more about this, Chris.
Yeah, some examples. If you are about to repair something that's still under warranty, you want to know that is the case. But maybe if you want to have planned maintenance next week, and we already know that it's very likely that the materials that are required are not in stock all time, that's also something that we can just warn about in this thing. And of course, you can ask a chatbot for that information, but then you have to think about asking that question. And in this way, it's a very compact view, a compressed view of information. And besides that, it's a nice place to also show the documents and the images that are attached and also point the attention to that. So this thing is also in beta at this moment, and yeah, you can expect it in the product a little later. But indeed, yeah, that's an example of where we ended up with a non-AI feature for a problem that we originally wanted to trying to solve with AI.
Yeah. In this case, actually, AI helped us creating better features in our product, but without utilizing AI actually.
Be that as it may, I mean, I need to be the safeguard of that spectrum that I talked about, right? It's wonderful to get enthusiastic about this. It's wonderful to think about all of the potential of AI, but I want to make sure that we also stay pragmatic and that we stay real. We've seen one use case, I believe, that is already in the system right now. What else is available in the system?
Yeah, another thing we tried before without AI is photo-based meter readings. That's also a use case, so many customers asked for it. Back in 2021, we already did a proof of concept in a hackathon. It's also presented by the product owner mobile in a webinar, and where we asked, okay, do you see value in this? And if you do, can you provide us with photos of your meter readings? Because in our daily lives, we also record meter readings of the water meter at home with a photo, and it works pretty well. So why can't we do that? And I think the biggest difference is that those companies, the water companies, they have to train 1, 2, 3 meters. But in industrial environments, or whatever environment our customer is, we see many different meters. Let's have a look at it. It's like this. So it's way harder to train that. And we started with optical character recognition. And we just saw that in many cases, let's say about 50%, it was wrong because of the decimal position or because of whatever reason, it wasn't accurate enough. So we didn't release it. And now with the rise of larger language models, the context is also provided on the meter. And that changed a lot. So rather than just doing things with language, with text, we can also use picture to retrieve information from it. And it works pretty well. So that's what we released right now, also behind this AI license. I'm going to tell a little bit more about it later on. But you just take a picture of a meter and it extracts the value. You're able to correct if it's not accurate. But this is something that works pretty well at this moment.
I think we've also seen, or at least I've seen, that AI has become much of a business imperative, if you will, right? It's something that many management teams or boardrooms will talk about. Okay, we need AI. We need to retain our competitive advantage. We need to be smart and invest in AI. Yep. But there's obviously challenges that come with AI and adoption of AI. What are some of the challenges that you see, and what are some of the sort of solutions that you think we should be looking at?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. One of the major reasons is we want AI, let's do it, but the maintenance team is not really focused on it. They have different priorities, the day-to-day business, they are not too much into AI, and it's also hard to determine where to start. Where should we start? And of course, you can make it big. You can hire consultancy firms to do huge pilots, but that makes it even more complex. So that's also one of the reasons why we decided to not offer an AI technology or an empty shell, but just AI applied in use cases to solve problems in the software, which makes it pretty easy. Also, skepticism on the shop floor is one of the issues. People don't often believe that it could work accurate, and of course, what we see in the media are the epic fails of AI. So the transparency, we already addressed it with the pyramid. I think that's a key thing. So be transparent about the fact that it is AI. Make sure that we offer it in the form of recommendations, suggestions, so the user should stay in control. And that's also what we already see as first reactions from our customers. Last week, I spoke with one of the customers that used AI, and he said, I talked to the maintenance manager, the group maintenance manager, And he said, okay, at the beginning they were quite skeptical, but they said these suggestions are surprisingly accurate. We didn't expect that. And I think that of course, that's for us, it's nice to hear that. But of course, in the end, that'll build up the trust and the confidence that it actually works. And the third thing is it's always difficult to make a business case. There are costs involved, and we want to calculate the benefits, and that's pretty difficult. And if you really want to measure the benefits of AI initiatives, you already need a baseline. You need a decent maturity level to already have measurements in place about productivity, downtime, hands-on tool time. And then if you implement an AI measure, then you can measure it. But not everybody is already on that maturity level. So that'll be a difficult thing. But one thing that we can influence as Ultimo is make it on the cost side, very simple, and on the low end. So let's now move on to the early bird offer that we do for all our premium and enterprise customers. This is behind a license, and you can purchase the license in the Ultimo web shop. You can see it on the right side. Tomorrow, everybody will receive an email with a link to the web shop. If you cannot wait, you can navigate to ultimo.com/AI or navigate to the portal and the web shop. And I think the nice thing about how we implement AI in Ultimo is that there are no implementation services needed to activate the license. So in 24 hours after purchasing the license, it'll be available in your environment. You don't need technical skills or AI skills or data scientists to make it available. You don't need external data sources, external hardware, sensors. It's just part of the product. So if you want to start working with AI and already see the benefits as of today or literally tomorrow, this is the easiest way to make a start with it.
And I also think, you mentioned the maturity model. Many of the use cases in AI lie further ahead in the maturity model.
Yeah, level 4,
and this,
5.
by example, is one of the functionalities that is ready to go to add value from day one, is as low threshold as it gets, requires no of that additional tech investment to get it up and running. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think data quality is often one of the reasons why you cannot take the next step, but these use cases actually improve the quality of data. So it helps you to take the next step, to go from maturity level 2 to 3, and then it also helps you, achieving those longer term goals.
I think we showed a few examples. We also showed what is inside Ultimo. But I think we also can make a lot more examples and more use cases. And one of them is generating work instruction. We also have a prototype of that one. And I'm really curious what our audience is going to think about features like this. Generating work instructions, for example.
Yeah, because the struggle in our heads, we were very puristic about the fact that we need the symptoms, that we need the cause, and then we can provide the solution based on your own failure data. But on the other hand, we just know that the work planner has ChatGPT open in the next screen and just makes a prompt itself to see how can we have what could be the cause or what could be the solution for this problem. So we can also integrate it indeed in Ultimo. So let's have a look at this experiment. So again, it's not yet part of the product, but this could be one of the new use cases. And we're very curious about your opinion about this. It suggests 3 possible causes with the associated solution. And of course, it's a task of the work planner or the technician to read it carefully and to not just do it because AI advises it, but form your own opinion. But it really might inspire or help you. And something totally different, one of the customers is about to onboard new plants with Ultimo. And sometimes you already have an equipment structure in Excel or in another system, but sometimes you haven't. How can we create a photo of the type plate and let AI extract relevant data about the equipment and populate it in the equipment record? It turned out to work. And also here, we put it in a dialog. You can make some corrections. Maybe it identified the type number, but it was the serial number or the other way around. So you can still make corrections. But these are use cases we're thinking of. So I think it's good to to go to a poll where we provide you with 5 different very specific practical use cases. If we can show up the slide, we see the chatbot where you can interact with Ultimo using using natural language, create assets using a type plate like we just showed, draft a work instruction. We can even draft preventive maintenance models or inspection plans based on the natural large language model. And AI can also help you retrieve information from documents. So ask something, could be troubleshooting related, maybe the characteristics of an equipment, and extract that data from a document. So let's
let's take a minute or so to look at the poll. The poll should be starting up momentarily. I think it is important to mention that the poll is going to be visible on the webinar screen. So if you're watching full screen, make sure to exit full screen, go to the interactions tab and fill out your selection of choices. In the meantime, I have one really important question that keeps popping up in our Q&A that I'm going to ask you guys. Language, right? Yeah. We have seen that this works wonders in the English language. Mm-hmm. Is it available in other languages besides English as well?
Yeah, I can answer that one. A large language model is typically trained in a large number of languages, especially the bigger large language models are trained in English, Dutch, French, all kinds of languages, especially the bigger languages, those work best. Yep. So I cannot guarantee that every language will work, but the main languages will work very well.
Yeah, and the feature that we just showed with the suggestions, the examples were in English, but it provides the suggestions in the same language as the problem description. So based on the language of the user, the suggestions will be in line with the existing problem description. Do we already have a winner?
We have a winner. Before we get there, I think we have about 20 seconds left. I have one more question, which is about how we capture the information out of documents or images that are added to Ultimo. Would it be sufficient to share a hyperlink, or do you actually need to upload the document itself for it to be recognized by AI?
At this point, you need to upload a photograph or a document for us to be able to process it by AI. But this can change in the future.
Yeah, I think all these features are subject to change. It's innovative. So based on the feedback we get from our users, it'll change. And sometimes we deliberately start small in a very specific part of the product. So in this case, the pictures that are submitted are for failures. We haven't yet done that for contracts, for instance. You can also summarize contracts or whatever document, but let's just start small in the failure reports, and then with positive feedback we'll build it out, and that'll happen with most of these features.
Sounds like a sensible approach, right? Really quickly on the poll, I see a very clear winner, which is creating assets using a type plate, which can be really useful. We have some good votes and shouts for the chatbot as well, and then finally the overall generic retrieval of information from documents.
Okay. Which was the winner this morning when we did the exact same webinar in Dutch. So this is interesting. Okay, good.
Interesting.
Okay, and another poll. This was a very specific, pragmatic use cases. But another form of AI is optimization of workflows, decisions. In which area do you see most value for optimization? Is that in preventive maintenance, so based on failure data? And Ultimo could advise where to do more or less preventive maintenance. That's one area. Another area is spare part or inventory optimization, to find the balance between not having too much stock that is unused, but have the most critical items on stock. And another one is planning and scheduling. So the day-to-day scheduling of your employees is something that could be automated. There's also an area where we are experimenting at this moment. A totally different problem to solve. So just very curious in which functional areas you see most value of AI-powered optimization.
All right. Once again, make sure that you look at the options that are visible from the Interactions tab in the webinar screen itself. While we wait for those results to come in, I have one question which is really interesting. is this AI feature that we've seen, is that applicable for every single module? And does it also include custom screens and custom created objects within Ultimo?
Yeah, good question. I think you are pointing at the feature.
The suggestions that we see for reporting, yes.
That is made available for failure reports. We, as you might know in Ultimo, we have self-service of failure screens. And we also have the regular screens to report a failure or request work by employees in the maintenance menu. It's applied on those screens. So if there is customization on those screens, that should not impact the AI feature. However, fully custom screens, so new custom screens, do not include this because we simply don't know what the purpose of that screen is. It might be something else. So fully custom screens do not include the AI control, and also the screens for preparing work or executing work do not have this feature. The feature that I was talking about for the mechanic who is about to finish a job, and that one will be included in the update progress dialog and also on the mobile device. But yeah, I already indicated that.
But again, it's also subject to change. So
Yeah.
everything that we say can be changed in the future based on feedback we receive.
Yep, true.
Which is why it is so important to gather all that valuable feedback. Thank you for providing feedback on the poll. Just really quick, top outlier here is the preventive maintenance optimization. By far is our number one vote for this poll, but double-digit shouts for both inventory optimization and planning and scheduling optimization as well.
Sounds very good. Talking about customer involvement, just like we do with other modules, we use customer panels to brainstorm about use cases, to make sure that we do it in a proper way, to let people test what we develop. So this is also a request for you to consider that. Would you like to join the customer panel and experiment with us, brainstorm with us, and even try out things in your environment before it's released to the larger audience? That would be very great. That we can experiment and share opinions and share experiments with you. So after the webinar, you should get an evaluation form, and one of the questions is that you can show your interest in the customer panel. I think we're reaching the end.
I think so. With that, I think I want to highlight that we have been talking about the actual real use case and bringing benefit to you, to our customers, and to our end users. The user-driven artificial intelligence infused Ultimo is here. So make sure if you want to profit from it to look at the early bird offering. Thank you for all of your attention, and we will see you next time.